Welcome to Nice and Blunt. My name is Adam Mariancho, and for today's win-loss video, we're going to pivot to the AFC and talk about the AFC East, a division that's very competitive at the top, and let's face it, really bottoming out when it comes to the Patriots. But we're going to start with the top dogs, the Bills, who won the division last year. Can they maintain their dominance despite a reworked defensive unit and a new wide receiver core? Here is their schedule. They get week 1 versus Arizona at home, and I think they beat Kyler Murray. I think they'll be able to handle Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride enough. So they start off on the right foot, a win versus Kyler Murray, but in week 2 they have to travel into Miami, into the Florida Heat on Thursday Night Football, and I think they lose. There's a big weather advantage. The home team gets some shade. The road team does not. And I think they're just a little too exhausted by the fourth quarter. And week 2 against their division rival. In week 3, they take on Jacksonville at home, a team that has given them some problems the last 2 years. However, this one's at home. Last season, it was in London, and the Jags had an advantage. They stayed in the UK for that matchup. They were more rested than the Bills were. So I think it turns around. I think the Bills will win this matchup. I'm giving them a win week 3, and this one could go either way, honestly. The Jags somehow have their number, but I think they turn it around. I think they win and get the dub over Trevor Lawrence. In week 4, though, I am absolutely taking Baltimore. I don't think they can beat Lamar Jackson early in the season with Derrick Henry fully healthy, Mark Andrews a full go. It's just too much firepower. They're back to 2-2, 500 once again. In week 5, at Houston, I'm going to take the Texans, a revenge game for Stephon Diggs, and even if Diggs doesn't have a good game, they still have too many more weapons on offense that I trust. CJ Stroud is a great quarterback, and Josh Allen can compete, but I think it'll be too much. I think they fall to 2-3 in week 5, and that's a bummer. But in week 6, on Monday Night Football, they get a road game at the Jets, and this one could go either way. Last season, they lost to the Jets on the road in overtime on a punt return kickoff. But if that happens again, I would be shocked. I think they'll figure it out. And I think they're a better team than the Aaron Rodgers Jets. So a win in primetime week 6. And I think they go on a bit of a winning streak starting with this game. In week 7 versus Tennessee, that one should be easy. I'm not a believer in the Will Levis Titans this season, so a win for Buffalo. In week 8, they travel to Seattle, but I definitely think they're better than Geno Smith and the Seahawks, so a win in week 8. And then in week 9, I think they do beat the Dolphins at home. I do not envision them getting swept, and the home field advantage for Miami is irrelevant. This game is in Buffalo. So 4 straight wins. At this point, they're 6-3 and on a bit of a tear. But in week 10 at the Colts, I think this game will be a little more difficult than most people give the Colts credit for. So I'm envisioning a loss. Not only do I believe in Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen and that offense, I also think they'll be looking ahead to the rivalry game in week 11 at home versus Kansas City. So a little bit of an oversight in week 10, but I do think they can beat Kansas City. Last year, Kadarius Toney gave them some help in the final play of the game, and they might need it in order to do it once again. But the Bills always play the Chiefs much tougher and a lot better in the regular season as opposed to the playoffs, and because this game is at home, I will give it to Buffalo. It's probably the most important game that they have circled on their calendar. You know they hate the Chiefs. So they win week 11. At this point, right before the bye, they are 7-4, and I think they need this break in order to have a chance against San Francisco. In week 13, Sunday Night Football, they get the Niners at home, and if this game was in California, I think I would take the Niners. But I'm going to give it to Josh Allen. I think he's the better quarterback, and at this point in the season, I do think the wide receiver weapons will be rolling. James Cook should have a good game. And who knows, maybe there's some injuries that plague the Niners depth chart just enough to give the Bills the advantage. So a win week 13, very close one, could go either way. I'm giving Buffalo the dub. However, these next 2 games on the road are going to be very tough, and I have a hard time buying into a full sweep of this brutal stretch. Like the Chiefs, the Niners, the Rams, the Lions, those are 4 tough games, and I think they would feel really good to go 2-2 during this stretch. So the road game at the Rams, I think, is an L. I'm going to take Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. That offense is just too good to ignore, and I think the Rams are legit Super Bowl contenders this season, so I'll take the Rams. And then in Week 15, I'm actually going to take Detroit. I trust them a little bit more. I think their defense is improved, and there's just too many good young weapons. I think Jahmyr Gibbs will give the Bills defense some problems. So 2 impressive wins against the Chiefs and Niners, but then 2 difficult losses against the Rams and Detroit. But these last 3 games of the season, I think, are really easy in division. 2 of them are against the Patriots. Those are automatic wins. And then Week 17 versus New York, I think they can sweep the Jets. I do think they can get it done. And if they go 5-1 in division, like I'm predicting, the only loss Week 2 at Miami, they'll be in really good shape to have any tiebreaker when it comes to the division lead, just like they did last season. So I'm giving them 3 straight wins, Week 16, 17, 18. They will sweep the Patriots, and they will sweep the Jets. So 11-6, really good record, and who knows, maybe it's enough for a high playoff seed in the tough AFC. But the Dolphins are going to be right there with him for the 2nd year in a row. The Dolphins really need a home playoff game to show what they can do. They're not the same team on the road, and weather's a big factor in January. So they really need 12 wins, and let's see if they can do it. They get Week 1 versus Jacksonville, and the Miami Heat, as I alluded to earlier in the video, will be a big factor. I do think Tyreek Hill, Tua, and Jalen Waddle will be too much for Jacksonville's kind of lowly secondary. I don't trust their defense completely. So I'm going to take the Dolphins at home Week 1. And then, like I mentioned earlier in the video, the weather and the heat is going to be a factor yet again. I think in Week 2, Thursday Night Football, they beat Buffalo at home. So 2 straight wins, off to a good start. Week 3 is going to be a very difficult game on the road, though, at Seattle. I don't want to completely overlook Seattle. I mean, some of you think I did earlier in a previous video, but I think the Dolphins are better, and I am going to give it to Miami. This one is a bit of a coin flip. I wouldn't be shocked if they lost it, but I think early in the season, Tua usually fires on all cylinders, and I think he is the better quarterback over Geno Smith. I will give the win to Miami. So 3-0, and I think it just gets better from here. Versus Tennessee at home, Week 4, Monday Night Football. They lost in primetime late last season to the Titans, and I don't think they let it slip through their fingers again. I think it's a bit of a revenge win, and I'm giving them their 4th straight in a row, Week 4 versus Tennessee, 4-0 to start the season. Then Week 5 at the Patriots, Mike McDaniel owned the Bill Belichick Patriots, and with very few weapons on offense, I think they can beat Jacoby Brissett pretty easily. So 5-0 entering the bye. Coming off the bye, they get a road game at the Colts, and this one is also going to be very difficult. I also feel like this is a coin flip as well, but I'm going to give the advantage to the Dolphins just because they're coming off a bye. A little extra time to prepare is important. So a close win, and this one is pretty critical because we're going to see this schedule is about to get much more difficult, and I do think they rattle off a lot of L's moving forward. But it doesn't happen in Week 8. I do think they beat Kyler Murray at home. Still, this is October weather, and I think it is a factor. The heat gets to the Cardinals just a little bit too much in the 4th quarter. The Dolphins go undefeated, 7-0 through the first 8 weeks. But here is where it gets brutal on the road at Buffalo. There's no way they sweep the Bills. That's an L Week 9. And then in Week 10, Monday Night Football at the Rams, I trust the Rams a little bit more. I'm going to give it to the LA Rams, Sean McVay over Mike McDaniel. So 2 straight L's, however, 2 straight home games versus Las Vegas and the Patriots. I think they win both of them. I do think they're a better team than the Raiders, and it wouldn't shock anyone if they swept the Patriots. So 9-2, looking pretty good, but at Green Bay on Thanksgiving night, I don't think it's going to work out. There is some chance that it's cold in Green Bay, and who knows, maybe it's snowing late November. That could derail the Dolphins once again. And I do think that Jordan Love and the Packers have a better offense. Overall, I'm going to trust Matt LaFleur in this one. So if it was at home, I might give it to the Dolphins, but on the road, I'm going to take Green Bay, their 3rd L of the season. In Week 14, I think they beat the Jets at home. Tough division rivalry game, but at home they can get the win. At this point, they're 10-3, but this close to the season is brutal. At the Texans, I'm going to take CJ Stroud. I think they have the better offense, and maybe the run game can get going, but I think DeMeco Ryans' defense will step up. I'm going to take Houston an L for Miami. Then they get San Francisco at home, and maybe the travel for the Niners is not going to play well for them, but I do trust Kyle Shanahan a little bit more than his apprentice, Mike McDaniel. I'm going to give the edge to San Francisco. So 2 straight L's, 10-5, and this game against Cleveland, I think, is really critical for their playoff hopes. If they lose it, then it's kind of the nail in the coffin, honestly. 10 wins might not be enough in the tough AFC, but I think they can beat Deshaun Watson. Who knows? But there might be a different quarterback in Cleveland. Deshaun is not a player I really trust either. So hopefully the weather's not too bad and Tua finds a way. I think the run game really steps up. Devon Achane and maybe the rookie Jalen Wright contributes as well. So a win for the Dolphins, their 11th of the season. And in order to win the division, they have to win Week 18 at the Jets. I don't think they do. I think the Jets defense finds a way. This game could be flexed in that primetime matchup, and I think it's going to be a really tough win. I do not see them sweeping the New York Jets. So their 6th loss, a tough close to the season. They start off 7-0, but finish 4-6, and with a 4-2 division record, they lose that home playoff game to the Bills. The Bills do win the division at 11-6 for the 2nd year in a row. However, the Jets are a good team. Let's not forget about them. Can they make that playoff push and maybe finish with 11 wins themselves? 12 would be asking too much. I'm not going to project 12 wins for the Jets, but let's see what their record looks like at the end of this schedule. Week 1 at San Francisco, Monday Night Football. That's an L. A return to San Francisco for Robert Saleh, and I think that new offensive line is going to have some issues against Nick Bosa. Just too many problems against a Super Bowl caliber team in the Niners. So an L Week 1, but then 3 winnable games right after that. I do think they beat Will Levis, so a win in Week 2, and then their home opener versus New England, that one should be an automatic win as well. If they can't beat the Titans or the Patriots, this year is going to be terrible for the Jets. So I'm giving Aaron Rodgers the win. Yet again, this is a Thursday Night Football game. Their 3rd game in 11 straight days. Not ideal, but then they get a little extra time to rest versus Denver. And like last year, I think Breece Hall is going to run all over those Broncos, and it's not going to be close. I'm going to take the Jets, their 3rd win in a row, 3-1, not bad. But then in Week 5, they travel to London against the Vikings, and I think Sam Darnold is going to take some revenge on the organization that gave up on him. So I am taking the Minnesota Vikings. I think Justin Jefferson will not be shut down by Sauce Gardner. Jordan Addison's going to play well. And Kevin O'Connell going to dial up an elite game plan for Sam Darnold. Those London games are a little bit unpredictable, and I think the Jets are just too tired from all of their travel and short window games to compete against Minnesota. I feel like this could be a blowout, honestly, in favor of the Vikings. I just think they show up to play better than the Jets do. So their 2nd loss of the season, followed by a home matchup against Buffalo on Monday Night Football in Week 6. And I'm taking the Bills. I think the Bills are definitely a better team. So 3-3, not terrible, not great. Let's see what they can do the rest of the way. They get some good matchups here on the road at Pittsburgh. I do think they'll beat Russell Wilson. I think Nathaniel Hackett will know some of his weaknesses. And although the Mike Tomlin defense is good, the solid defense for the Jets is better. I'm taking the Jets to win this one in Week 7. That one is also a primetime game. So at this point, they've played 5 primetime games. In the first 7 weeks, everyone in the country is going to know whether or not the Jets can compete or if they suck once again. But at this point, 4-3 is not terrible, and I think they go 5-3 with a win at the Patriots. I do think they sweep New England. The Patriots are not a team I believe in at all this season. So 5-3, not bad, and I think they can beat Houston. Last year, they also beat the Texans. Granted, CJ Stroud did have a concussion in that game. They might need that little boost in terms of chances to beat them, but their defense did step up. I do think they match up well, and I do think they can shut down Stephon Diggs completely. So as long as they limit one other weapon, whether it be Joe Mixon, Nico Collins, or Tank Dell, I think the Jets defense finds a way. This game is also in prime time, Week 9, Thursday Night Football versus the Texans. So I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers. I don't feel amazing about it, but I think this one is a close one, and I'm going to give it to the home team. Their third straight win, sixth of the season at this point. But these next two games, I think they will kind of overlook their opponents. I think the Cardinals are on the come up this season, and at this point in the year, that Marvin Harrison, Kyler Murray connection will be on fire. So they won't have an answer for it, and I think they kind of sleep on the Cardinals matchup. I think they lose week 10. Tough game for the Jets. In week 11, I think they also lose to the Colts. At this point, all the travel and a late bye catches up to them. They're going to be a little tired, and the Colts are very underrated. They almost made the playoffs with Gardner Minshew last year, and even though this game is at home for the Jets, I don't care. I'm going to take the Colts in primetime. Sunday Night Football goes to Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. Jonathan Taylor going to have a good game in this one. So at this point, they're 6-5, barely above 500, and they need to close out strong after the Week 12 bye. None of these games are in primetime. They're all Sunday morning, and that's ideal, but I don't think it really matters at the end of the day. Versus the Seahawks, I'm going to give them the win. The Seahawks have to travel, and the Jets off a bye should play well. A win for New York. Then at Miami, I think they lose to the Dolphins in this first matchup. If it was at home, I'm going to give it to the Jets, but it's in Miami. I'm going to take the Dolphins for sure. An L, 7-6, not great. Then at Jacksonville, this one will be a very close game, and it could go to Trevor Lawrence, but I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers. I think the defense really steps up and shuts down the kind of suspect receiver core for Jacksonville. So a win in week 15, but week 16 versus the Rams, I'm taking Sean McVay and the Rams. I do believe in the Rams this season. I think they are a better squad. So an L for the Jets. And then in week 17, I think they get swept by Buffalo. I just don't think they're up to speed with Josh Allen. I don't think they'll have an answer for him. And they only won week 1 last season because they got lucky in overtime. So an L week 17. And that's 8 losses, not ideal. Very desperate at the end of the season. And I do think they beat Miami. I think at home they will not get swept by the Dolphins. So 9-8 is my projection for the Jets. A winning season, but in the AFC, I don't think that's enough to make the playoffs. I think they miss out by just 1 game this year. And I think that tiebreaker is going to be that Colts game, week 11. That one I think is going to be the game that bites them in the ass in terms of playoff seeding. So 9-8, not great, not amazing, but better than last year. And finally, a winning season for the Jets. But lastly, the Patriots are a team that I don't think anyone is excited for this season, and I don't think anyone is going to be that shocked with my prediction. Let's take a look at the schedule. Week 1 at Cincinnati. That's an L. Joe Burrow should win that one comfortably. Week 2 versus Seattle, I'm going to take Geno Smith over Jacoby Brissett. Maybe the defense is better than I am expecting, but I just really have no idea how much faith we should have in Gerard Mayo as a rookie head coach. So I'm going to take Seattle, and I'm going to take the opponent in so many of these matchups. At the Jets, no fucking chance. Giving it to Aaron Rodgers for sure. At the Niners, hell no, I'm absolutely taking Kyle Shanahan. So 4 L's in a row, and it gets worse from here. Versus Miami, an L. Versus Houston, automatic L. Versus Jacksonville in London, a team that will be staying in London from the previous week, there is no chance that they beat Jacksonville on the road there. So yet another L, and I think they get swept by New York in week 8. I am giving the win to the Jets. 8 straight losses for the Patriots at this point. But in week 9, I'm going to throw them a bone. I do think they have a chance against the Titans. The Titans are not one of the better teams in the NFL this season, especially without Derrick Henry. That offense is hard to trust. So they're just tired of losing, and I'm going to take the Patriots. It could be an L as well, though. Wouldn't shock me. But their first win of the season comes in week 9 versus Tennessee. In week 10, though, at Chicago, I'm going to take Caleb Williams, definitely the better quarterback. And they beat him a couple years ago with Justin Fields when Eberflus was the coach back then. So I'm going to take Chicago here, and then I'm going to definitely take the Rams, absolutely going with LA over New England. At Miami, No chance Mike McDaniel has owned the Patriots in the last 2 seasons. And then versus the Colts, I'm definitely taking Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson. So another 4 straight L's, finally a Week 14 bye. They are waiting for some rest. And off the bye, I think they have a chance to shock Arizona. I know I've talked up Arizona, but the Cardinals feel like a team that can win against anyone and also lose to anyone. And this game has trap game written all over it. It might be their first win of the season, but I do think it's their second, and I'm giving them a win Week 15 off the bye at Arizona. These last 3 games, though, I think they lose pretty much automatically. They definitely get swept by Buffalo. No fucking chance, Week 16 or 18. And I do think they lose Week 17 against Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. So 2-15 is my prediction for the Patriots. Not good. Not good at all. They're going to be in position for that number 1 pick, and maybe they move off of Drake May, but odds are they trade away the pick and stock up on draft picks from somebody else that gives them a haul in order to move up for the best quarterback in next year's draft. So tough spot for the Patriots, and definitely finishing 4th place. This is what I envision for the entire division. I have the Bills taking it once again at 11-6. They have a 5-1 division record, so they have the tiebreaker over Miami, who go 4-2 in division, but also finish 11-6. That loss to the Jets Week 18 is brutal for Miami. But the Jets finished 9-8, a winning record, but not enough to make the playoffs. Unfortunate for them. But the Patriots finished 2-15, a rebuilding year for sure. They're just going to want to fast forward to next season. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button for me and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll hit the AFC South in the next video, and I will see you then. My name is Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.